Hey, friends. Hey, welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn and I am your host. And happy May, friends. We are here. This year is really flying by. It really is. But April was glorious, if I do say so myself. But my TBR is overflowing. It's really overflowing. And yet I keep adding more. I'm going to do something about that, which I'll talk about later on in the podcast, though. But anyway, since it is the first of the month, that means it is time for my favorite episode of the month, which is what I read in April and the books that I am looking forward to in May. I read 11 books last month and only remember 6 of them, really. All of the rest, I think I talked about on the podcast already, but I'm going to recap 3 of the books that I remember. They're not necessarily my faves. I think I've talked about my faves all through the month. So listen to those episodes. If you listen to last month's episodes as I read them, if you really want to hear those, like Brandy's book, and it was a couple of others that I read that were really good. But these are 3 books that also I remember well, whether I was disappointed with them or not. So let's get into it. The first book that I want to talk about from last month was Archangel's Consort by Nalani Singh. This is the 3rd book in a 18-book series. I have read almost all but 2 of the series. There are 2 books that I haven't read. I am one of those folks who can and will skip around in the series rather than going chronologically. If I'm interested in that character, I will just jump to that one if they are all out. But that means I have often end up having to go back and get reference. And then I usually end up reading all of the books in the series anyway, just not in order. But the new book is out today. And when I read the very first chapter of that book, actually the first 3 chapters, there were a few details that I missed. And I decided to go ahead and complete the series. So that's what I was doing last month with that. Let me tell you about this one. Vampire hunter Elena Devereaux and her lover, the lethally beautiful Archangel Raphael, have returned home to New York only to face an uncompromising new evil. A vampire has attacked a girls' school, the assault of one of the sheer vicious madness, and it is only the first act. Rampant bloodlust takes vampire after vampire, threatening to make the streets run with blood. Then Raphael himself begins to show signs of uncontrolled rage as inexplicable storms darken the city's skyline and earth itself shudders. The omens are suddenly terrifyingly clear. Ancient and immortal is rising. The violent winds whisper her name, Kayleen. She has returned to claim her only son, Raphael. One thing stands in her way, Elena, the consort who must be destroyed. It was good. I always enjoy the books in the series that have Elena and Raphael as the main characters, but this was one when their relationship was still newish. So I enjoyed going back to that time because in the later books, they've been together like hundreds of years. And so it's really good. I gave this one a 4 out of 5, and it was excellent, just like the other books that I read in the series. I think the lowest that I have given one of the books in this series is a 3.5 because the characters are just that good. It's like you're invested in everyone over the course of, like I said, 18 books. It's not like the characters come and then they disappear. They reappear in every book. So you just get invested. They're like family. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so sad to see the series end. Anyway, the next book I want to talk about was Remember That Day by Mary Balu. The premise: Winifred Cunningham, the adopted daughter of a portrait painter, hopes that her new close friend, Owen Ware, will soon ask for her hand in marriage. But when Owen introduces Winifred to his elder brother, Nicholas, the late Earl of Stafford's second son, the slow burn of attraction between them begins. Nicholas is a cavalry colonel, a hardened soldier whom Winifred at first despises, which was not really true. But anyway, she finds him intimidating and cruel looking, and while he finds her strange and startlingly forthright. During a summer at Ravenswood, however, Nicholas and Winifred are unwillingly thrown together on several occasions until they realize that the passion that drives their disagreements is not due to dislike, it is because of attraction. But while Winifred still waits Owen's proposal and Nicholas has made his intention to marry his commanding officer's daughter quite clear, with alliances to other marriage prospects and brotherly bonds at risk, not to mention the age difference between them, Nicholas and Winifred know it would be wholly improper to pursue a romance. This is the fifth book in the Ravenswood series. This series focuses on one family and all the siblings, and even though the last one was the mother. But anyway, this particular book combines the characters from a previous series also, which this author tends to do. So that wasn't really my problem. I have not loved this series like at all. In fact, my average rating is a 2.5, with one book getting a 2 and one getting a 2.75. And I think the others got a 3. Barely. This was just okay. And not because of the love story, but because the love story was actually pretty good. I actually really loved this couple. But the reason why it went down was because it became cumbersome, because she was trying to integrate two very large groups of characters from both series. Because Winifred was introduced to us in a previous series. Was it the series before this one? Yes, the series before this one, I think. Winifred was introduced, and she was introduced then when she was a child. But it's a whole cast of characters over there. I think that series was like 6 or 7 books also. And then there's this series, which we are on like the 5th book, and there's also a big cast of characters. So there were whole passages where I was like, oh my God, why? Like, I guess if I didn't know these characters already, I would have appreciated it. But even if I hadn't, I think I would have been like overwhelmed. It's like world building, but with characters in the middle of a love story, which is not something you do, because then it just takes away, because you have to explain everything. It was just so cumbersome. And I was sad. This author is one of my longtime favorite romance authors. She's like an OG. I've been reading her for years. Her Bedouin series remains one of my favorite. And then the series with the teachers, my rivals, the Bedouin series, I love her. In the last series, I looked and I gave every one of those books between a 4 and a 5. And that was 2021. But I feel like lately, especially with this series, her books are getting not boring, but not enough that I have to rush and read them like I used to. Like, I used to be waiting on publishing day and like downloading it, like, yes, yes, yes. Now I'm like, all right. You know what I mean? I will finish this series simply because I have been waiting for the next story between the youngest sister, Stephanie, and in the series, and the twin from the other series. But since these families are intertwined, I've been looking forward to that story since like the very first book. But hopefully it won't drag. We're going to hope and pray. Also, the last thing, this was closed door-ish, which is a big change from her previous books and her previous series, especially her previous series. This series has been a little low on the spice side, but it's been there. And I admit to I'm disappointed. What can I say? I love a good spicy scene. And even though her spicy scenes were never explicit by any means, they were there. Um, Even if you don't give me like big details, can I have something? A thrust, a clutching of a body part, something like some afterglow, something like, damn. This one, I felt like, we didn't get anything until it was almost like we didn't get anything until the very end after they were married. And I guess, I don't know, but yeah, I was disappointed. But like I said, I will power through. But this might be the last series that I read from her, and that makes me really sad. I actually gave this one a 3. I gave it a 3, because the underlying love story was a good one. It was just that she messed it. Yeah, I give it a 3. The last book that I'm going to talk about is Tar Baby by Toni Morrison. The premise: Jadine Childs is a Black fashion model with a white patron, a white boyfriend, and a coat made out of 90 perfect sealskins. Son is a Black fugitive who embodies everything she loves and desires. As the book follows their affair, which plays out from the Caribbean to Manhattan and the Deep South, she charts all the nuances of obligation and betrayal between Blacks and whites, masters and servants, and men and women. We read this one for the Pouring Over Books Book Club this month. This was one of the most soap opera-ish of all of Toni Morrison's novels, I think. For me, it rivals The Bluest Eye for being one of the easiest reads of her. It was modern, set in 1980. and it had a guess who's coming to dinner feel, or it felt like a series of plays in one book, like vignettes. It was a good time. The book club as a whole averaged a 4 for this book, which is good because we are transitioning into Beloved this month. So we needed that break. I gave it a 4 also. So it was good. Anyway, now let's move on to May and the books that I am looking forward to this month. This podcast will go up on Tuesday, May 5th. And let me say that every book that I want to read seems like it's coming out on May 5th or either May 12th. It's like there's no in between, like none. But there are a ton of books that come out this month, and I am going to list out the ones I want folks to know about. Most of these are also ones on my own personal TBR. So, yeah, let's get into it. Okay, I think I'm going to stick with 6 books, I think. Yeah, 6. Let's start with Broken Dove by Danny Francis. I'm not going to give you the book synopsis because I feel like it gives away too much and there's just no way I can get around that. But remember last year's buzzy adult dystopian romance book, Silver Elite, that folks crashed out over, like, due to the author writing under a pseudonym and that it was marketed as it had Hunger Game vibes? I think the author herself actually said that she wanted the feel of the books, but with sex, because, Hunger Games and all of those dystopian books at that time were YA books. So Hunger Game actually had sex in it, but it's not explicit. You gotta read between the lines, and so did Divergent in the second book, I believe. Or maybe was a third. Might be the second no, it was the third. So, but, it wasn't explicit. Anyway, I digress. I actually liked, Silver Elite last year. Like, it wasn't that deep. I look back and I gave it a 4.25 out of 5. It was exactly what it said it was. It was literally just a dystopian romance. It wasn't deep. It wasn't supposed to be. I wasn't trying to read anything into it. It was just pure enjoyment. And sometimes that's all you want from a book. But the book ended with a lot of questions unanswered, but in a way that has me ready to reach for book 2 when I get my hands on it sometime this month. Like I said, it wasn't deep, but it was fun. And we all need fun in our lives. So I will report back when I finish this one. The next book that I want people to have on their radar is Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. The premise: Frankie and George have been best friends since they were 8. Their relationship has always been a little messy. They fight, they make up, they circle back to each other until recently. Now, right before Frankie's wedding, she's not even sure where they stand or if he's even going to show up at all, but he does. And for one night, everything feels good again. Then, the next morning, her fiance leaves her. No conversation, just a note. So Frankie goes back home, fully ready to fall apart for a bit. But George has other plans. He convinces her to go on the honeymoon that's already half paid for with him. They head off for a week in this quiet, beautiful coastal town, and what's supposed to be a reset turns into something else entirely. Old stuff starts coming up, feelings they've both ignored for years don't stay buried, and it becomes pretty clear this trip might either fix things between them or finally break them for good. Now, a Carly Fortune book signals to me that it's almost vacation book season. Sometimes I save her books for the summer, but most times, like this year, I read them as soon as they are released. I have an early copy of this from Libro FM, so I am listening to it right now until I get my hands on a physical or Kindle copy, whichever one I can get to first. And I literally have to get my hands on, like I said, the physical copy as soon as possible because the audio version is going too slow for me. I love it, but I am only about 20% in, and it's killing me that I can't just speed read through this and finish this in one night because I can't do that with audiobooks. Anyway, the next book that I'm looking forward to is Seek the Traitor's Son by Veronica Roth. The premise: LG Ann is just trying to live her life as a soldier, protecting her country from a rival nation called Tulasar, this powerful place where people worship this deadly fever that sometimes gives people strange abilities. She's not looking for anything bigger than that until she gets pulled into a prophecy. Suddenly, she's the face with Rava Vidar, one of Tulasar's most feared generals, and they're told that one of them is going to lead their people into victory over the other. They just don't know who. And somehow, tied up in all of this is a man that Elegy is apparently destined to fall in love with. So overnight, everything she thought her life was going to be is gone. And now she's on a collision course with someone who's supposed to be her enemy with both of their countries on the line. And she's fully planning to be the one who walks away from it. Even before she announced the release of the retelling of the Divergent series from an alternate universe, this one was on my radar. People seem to forget that she has written books since the Divergent series. I've read them all. So I personally am really looking forward to this one. Can't wait to get my hands on it, probably sometime this summer, if I'm honest, and looking at my TBR. I'm keeping it real with y'all. It's ridiculous. The next book that is on my radar for May is Score by Kennedy Ryan. Yeah, this was the premise. Verity and Monk were each other's first love, and neither of them ever really got over it. What they had back in college ended badly and is stuck with both of them in very different ways. Now, more than a decade later, they're thrown back together to work on a major Harlem Renaissance biopic. He's composing the score and she's writing the script. And the project already has a lot of buzz. So they have to work side by side while carrying all that unresolved history. And it doesn't take long to realize that those old feelings aren't as gone as they thought. Yes, yes, and yes, friends. That's all I have to say. I have started this one, and yes, 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 and more yes. Yes, this one comes out May 9th. The next book is The Calamity Club by Catherine Stockert. The premise from the author of the best-selling book and movie The Help. This one is set in 1930s Mississippi and follows three women whose lives end up colliding. You've got Meg, an 11-year-old girl in an orphanage who's learned not to rely on anyone. Then there's Birdie, who comes to town hoping her wealthy sister can help their struggling family, only to realize her sister's life isn't what it seems. And then there's Charlie, who's down on her luck and running out of options. When the three of them cross paths, they come up with a plan to take control of their lives, but in the time and place, even small acts of independence can come with real consequences. Will I read this one this month? No. But I will keep it in my back pocket for summer reading. We are going on a long road trip this summer, and I have jury duty soon. So I will need something physical to read. So I'm keeping this in mind. The next book on my radar for May is Galen by Walter Mosley. Let's talk about it. This one centers on Galen, a young Black man shaped by two very different parents. His mom is a brilliant scientist with a lot of pressure on her to succeed, and his dad is a quiet, kind cook who sees the world completely different way. Their relationship really sets the tone for everything. And as the story follows Galen and his family, it starts to feel really personal, like you're right there with them through all the ups and downs. I haven't read a Walter Mosley book in a very long time, but for some reason, this one makes me curious, and I thought everybody should know about it. Anyway, okay. So there are a few others coming out this month that I really want to mention, but I'm saving them for my annual summer reading list that is coming out later this month. I have been working on this list for a few weeks now because there are a lot of books, and I'm trying to put fresh new books on your radar to read this summer. It will be a mix of books being released during the summer and books that are already out that I think will become summer it books, because there are a few books that came out last month in April, and books that are coming out this month in May that are going to be summer books because first of all, it's the end of the school year here in the South. People are still doing work and school in other parts of the country. So when summer reading season comes, some of these books that have been on people's radar and not in their book clubs, they're going to be perfect summer vacation books, if we can all afford gas to go on these vacations. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, I can't wait to share that with you. I think week after next. It'll be, I think, the week before Memorial Day so that you can have the list and have something to read if you are going somewhere like to the beach for Memorial Day. Anyway, glad we got through that. Let's get into what I am currently reading. Before I share, let me tell you that my TBR, like I've been alluding to this, my TBR is out of control. It is so bad that I had to return all but one of my library books and put myself on restriction. I have so many books on my Kindle. It is ridiculous. I counted all of the unread books that I have on my Kindle from this year alone, and I should not buy another book. Let's put it like this. And then I went through my physical books, and once again, I should not buy another book this year. There are some books that are coming to this house because I pre-ordered them, but other than that, there should be no more books that I personally pick that come into this house. I can't request any more books. I put myself on restriction because it is ridiculous. Like I said, I returned all but one of my library books, and I might return that one. I put myself on restriction. I can't request any more books from NetGalley, which is where we get advanced reader copies. I can't buy any more books, or I can't download anything new, like nothing, because books keep showing up in my inbox and in the mail, and they are actual books that I want to read. I am overwhelmed in a good way. It took a good 2 years for this podcast and talking about books online for publishers to notice me. And I am grateful that suddenly I have been noticed. But now I need to get a better system to keep up with the books that I need to review and the books that I want to read. So I am going to try this month, even though I am a mood reader down to my core. This month, I'm going to try my best to stick to a TBR and only read extra books if I finish the books on my TBR. So my own personal TBR this month includes the following book. And like I said, if I finish these books, then I can move on. But let's go through them. Number one, Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune, which I talked about earlier. Broken Dove by Danny Francis, because I added this one because I will be unable to resist this one. This is one of those books that I've been waiting for. It is the second book in the series. I've been waiting for it. When it appears, when it's on, I will stop everything and read it. I'm just going to give into that. The third book on my list is Score by Kennedy Ryan, because the cover is gorgeous and I read everything she writes, and I have an advanced copy and I've already started this one. So it is on my TBR. Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burkett, because it is the buzziest book of the year so far. And it is looking at me from the book cart next to my desk, because I have an actual physical copy of this book, came in the mail, and I did not resist. So I've got to read that one. The next book on my TBR for May is Beloved by Toni Morrison, because it is the Pouring Over Books Book Club book. Next is Love is a War Song by Danica Nava, because it's my in-person BIPOC book club pick for my romance book club, and I have to read it. And last on my list is Start With Yourself by Emma Grede. I have been an on and off listener for her podcast for a while, and let me just say, she is not for everyone, and that's okay. I want us to normalize scrolling by and not picking up a book when we know we won't agree, or engaging with social media posts when we know we won't agree. But anyway, I'm actually kind of neutral about her, and I'm just really curious based on all the discourse around her and her recent statements, which, if I think back on it from listening to her podcast, I'm not really surprised by her statements. I just think she went on the wrong podcast and the wrong places to get this message across. Like, I saw her speaking, she made those infamous comments on Keke Palmer's podcast. The people on Keke Palmer's podcast are not her target audience. And somebody, her especially, being the person she is and the marketing person she is, the business person she is, should have known that. Maybe she was trying to reach new people. But I did see her speaking to Boz St. James. I'm like, those are your people. Those Boz St. James people, those are your people. But anyway, I have thoughts that I will share, but I will save that probably until next month. All right. So that is my TBR, but let me just go through what I am already currently reading this week. I'm currently listening to Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. I'm currently listening to A Perfect Storm, but as soon as the book is released, which when you all hear this today, it will be released, I will get the physical copy because, like I said earlier, I got to read it faster. My physical book is Score by Kennedy Ryan and Beloved for the book club. And my Kindle book is Archangel's Eternity by Nalani Singh, which again is the last book in the 18-book series. I've been drawing it out because I don't want it to end, but I need to end it so that I can move on to the next book. So, and my audiobook is the Emma Grede book, which probably will take me all month long to listen to that book. So I will let you all know about that one when I get to it. I don't have a review of a book I just finished reading because I literally haven't finished reading anything other than some fan fiction on AO3, which has become a slight addiction. Side note, there are excellent writers on AO3, like excellent. If you don't know what AO3 is, it is a website where people post it's how can I put it? What is the word? Independent authors. They have not been published. Most of them write for fun or they're writing and testing out books. There's a lot of fan fiction on there. So if there is a book that you love, most likely there's some fan fiction of it over on AO3. Like there are alternate endings, there are divergent from canon, there's like canon plus show. There's everything over there. If you want to read it, if you ship a couple, it's over there. It's fascinating. But anyway, there are some really excellent writers over there. And I hope all of the ones that I love, I hope they get published somewhere traditionally one day because it's some talent over there. And I love fresh talent. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. But anyway, that is all I have for you today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the pod today. If you did, I would love it if you followed me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And if you have a little bit of time, please consider leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It truly helps us connect with other bookish friends and it helps our community grow. You can always find me personally on IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wiltz and on my Substack Letters to LaShawn. And that's where the summer reading list, the entire list will be, the entire summer reading guide. But more on that later. But anyway, you can still join us this month for the Pouring Over Books Book Club. It is $5 a month. We are running a May special where you can join the book club for the rest of the year for half price or just like I said, $5 a month. And this month we are reading Beloved. This is the beginning of the Beloved trilogy. That's Beloved, Jazz, and Paradise. Those three. That's what we're doing. Okay, friends. So thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.